You can get political as a nonprofit organization. Now, I know one of the big myths and biggest lies out there is that you can't, that you got to stay in the middle ground, that you got to stay neutral, that you can't really say anything or speak out loud. And that is a bold faced lie. You absolutely can. Now, there are limits to what you can and can't do, but you can get political. You can advocate for things that your nonprofit values and cares about. Y'all heard of the Heritage Foundation? They are a nonprofit and they have not had their nonprofit status revoked. So we're going to dive in today to some of those myths and how you can actually make political advocacy work for you. So if you are new here, I am Sharmon Lebby. I'm a nonprofit consultant and I work with social and environmental justice organizations and helping them to build solid foundations, particularly in branding and communications, collaboration strategies, and strategic planning. Because we want that strong foundation so that you can last a long time and get that mission accomplished and done, right? So let's go ahead and dive into what some of these things are. One sidebar, there are quite a few organizations out there that will actually help you with this and make sure you stay safe and stay within the limits. One of those is Alliance for Justice, and they have a program called Bolder Advocacy. And then there's also Nkoyo Effiong Lewis, and I'm actually reading part of a list from her newsletter today. But I think it's just really, really important because organizations not only can advocate, they absolutely should. So, just starting with number one of the biggest misconceptions is simply that you can't do it at all, which, like I said before, you can. So, what you can do is educate people about different issues or policies. You can encourage them to vote. You can just do values-based education. What you can't do is any kind of partisan activity, which means you can't promote or fundraise or do anything for a particular candidate. You have to show no bias, non-bias in that sense, and that's where you have to remain neutral. But when it comes to very specific issues or very specific I can't talk today. Specific policies that you can absolutely do and talk about. The other misconception is just thinking that if you stay quiet, then you're going to be safe and nothing is going to happen to you. And so you just keep your mouth shut and don't say anything. And especially in these fraught political times, I think you can tell, again, being silent is just not going to save you. Even if you are choosing not to say anything politically, I think your internal people really need to know and understand what you're doing, what you're saying, what's the deal, because the biggest risk is them not knowing and them not understanding. So even if the organization itself is staying quiet, everybody needs to know why. Everybody needs to know what the risks are. So even if you are externally quiet, you still need to be talking about these things internally, because is somebody else said something, you could have a problem then if a board member just didn't know and they started running their mouths on behalf of the organization. That could get you in trouble. So again, this is something, and especially as we are in an election year, even if it's just the midterms are super important, and they're super important even locally. You just need to make sure that your organization is alive and well and talking about this and understanding what is and isn't okay. So just to sum all of this up, staying silent isn't going to help you, and it's speaking out just about anything isn't going to necessarily hurt you. You have to be very specific about what you are talking about. You have to be very specific about what you are advocating for, and you need to make sure that's clear across the board of your organizations, for volunteers, for staff, for board members, for executive leadership. Everybody needs to be on board with the message and understand what that means and what that looks like, and just have some clarity surrounding your strategy and your thought process in that. If you are an organization that is working with the unhoused and you're working with low income populations, that is something that you should absolutely be advocating for. I think it is super important to understand policies, especially on a local level. I'm just thinking about a recent organization that I know whose city council was trying to fine the unhoused for like being downtown. Now we all know, well, I don't know, not everybody knows, but most people know that that doesn't solve the problem, right? It's like trying to stick a band-aid. You're trying to act like if you make people who don't have money pay more money, that they're not going to do what they're trying to do to survive. It's not going to happen, right? So that is just a non-solution, and it's again just a typical westernized corporal response to a lot of things, and it doesn't solve the problem. So if you are an organization that is working with these populations, if this is the community that you serve, this is something that you want to get in on, right? You want to be at that council meeting. You want to be telling people the facts. You want to help them to understand. And this is advocacy. This is what it is. And a lot of organizations are already doing things like that. They're already educating people on what they do and why it's important. And so a lot of you are already doing advocacy and don't even realize it because you think it is just all about promoting and all these politicians, which again, you're not supposed to do. So we can work with different politicians, we can work with different elected officials, but we can't necessarily promote them, and especially during election season. So as we're moving into this election season, we need to remember that. And especially if your leadership works with them or has personal relationships with them, we need to make sure that that is separate so that we're protecting the organization. So again, if you are wanting some more information, definitely go check out Nkoyo Effiong Lewis's page. She has this incredible toolkit out there right now that breaks a lot of this down. I think she's going to be going in deeper than that later on. So you want to get on that newsletter, and also check out Alliance for Justice and their Boulder Advocacy program, because these are like two organizations, two kind of consulting things that are really going to help get you through these times and this election period. And I am putting this out now because I think it's super important that you have this information early, and that we're not like jumping in November and October when all of this stuff is really happening and going. Like, the time is now to really start thinking about how we're advocating for the different policies coming up. So I hope that helps. If you like this information, don't forget to subscribe, click on the little bell so that you know when I drop a new video. But I will see you guys next time.